Identical twin sisters Sunny and Jeena Han were born just 5 minutes apart, but it might as well have been 5 years. From the start, they were rivals.
When the twins competed, there was no real true winner.
Their heated battles pushed the twin sisters over the edge.
At one point, she tried to kill herself.
Anger and violence between the Han twins reached a boiling point, leading to a devious plot.
She hatched a plan to kill her sister and assume her identity.
So you have one roommate in the house, and you think she's being raped? Hurry.
What happens when one identical twin turns on the other?
People really portrayed this case as a good twin versus evil twin.
This is as bad as it gets.
Irvine, California, lies just 40 miles south of Los Angeles in idyllic Orange County.
It's a really well-planned community. Everything's well manicured, lots of parks, really kind of tranquil city.
You're close to the desert, the mountains, the ocean.
The affluent residents of Irvine bask in year-round sunshine, ocean breezes, and peaceful surroundings.
In the city of Irvine, the crime rate is pretty doggone low. It may very well be the lowest in the county. It's a very law-abiding kind of a place.
But one sunny afternoon in November 1996, all that changes. Orange County Dispatch receives a desperate 911 call.
911, what are you reporting?
Leave my house. My roommate's getting raped. How many people totally in the house? I don't know.
Fearing the worst, the emergency dispatcher immediately puts Orange County patrol officers on high alert.
So you have one roommate in the house, and you think she's being raped? Hurry.
Officers could never have known that they were about to stumble upon an elaborate plot, masterminded by the caller's very own twin sister.
You were in the room and you heard what?
And they may be too late to stop it.
I just lost the cell phone.
Sunny and Jeena Han were born just 5 minutes apart and over 6,000 miles away from Southern California in Incheon, South Korea. From the beginning, a clear distinction was made between these identical twin sisters.
Sunny was the first twin born, and because she was 5 minutes older, under Korean culture, she was the superior twin, and Jeena, as the inferior younger twin, would always have to defer to her.
Mother Boo Kim Han made it clear that the younger twin Jeena was expected to be subservient to her minutes elder sister, Sunny.
Their mother would always put Sunny first because Sunny was the oldest. And Jeena did not like that. Jeena did not want to be below Sunny, and her mother would put her below Sunny.
When their parents separated, the young twins lived apart for 3 years. Jeena with her father and Sunny with her mother. But the sisters remained eerily connected.
Boo Kim said even during those 3 years, if one of the twins was sick, they'd go to the hospital and inevitably the other one would be there with some other kind of ailment.
The biology of being a twin is special. The Han sisters inherited the same combination of genes from their parents, and they're genetically identical. They have more of a chance of displaying the same behaviors than a parent and offspring might.
Following the Han parent separation, Mr. Han granted custody of the girls to their mother. At age 11, the twin sisters relocated to the U.S. with Boo Kim.
They moved to the United States, first to Seattle, and their mother left Jeena and Sunny to stay with relatives for about a year. And then she moved them to Orange County, where they began junior high school. And this is really where things really went wrong.
Single mother Boo Kim worked long hours as a cocktail waitress at a local casino, where she developed an all-consuming gambling habit.
Their mother would take off for days at a time and leave the twins together in the house without any food to eat. The twins had nobody to care for them, and they had to fend for themselves.
On their own and utterly terrified in an alien culture, the Han twins were forced to grow up fast.
These girls are 12 years old, they're in a new country, they don't know the language, they don't have a support system, so they really did have to cling to each other during that time and depend on each other.
Boo Kim realized she couldn't provide for Sunny and Jeena, so she reached out to distant relatives, the Norrises, who lived 140 miles to the south in Campo, California, a desert town 50 miles east of San Diego.
She had called us and wanted to borrow money because she couldn't pay for rent and couldn't take care of the girls. So instead of loaning her the money, we just brought the girls down there to help her out that way.
Sunny and Jeena fell in love with their adopted family and relished their new way of life.
We had our first Christmas where the girls were with us. They really didn't have Christmas as we know Christmas growing up. And they got very upset when I wouldn't let them open the presents before Christmas. And they couldn't understand why not.
Christmas morning, the twins devoured their gifts, making sure Santa treated them equally.
They wanted to see what each other got, and they wanted to make sure that they got similar amounts.
The Han girls were enrolled in Mount Empire High School and worked hard to excel.
This was a good time in their relationship where they had support, they had some stability. They would carry around this big Korean English dictionary, dog-eared red book. One of the teachers told me they'd be looking up their words and learning their language, and they thrived, got straight A's.
It was during these long hours of study that the twins' extreme closeness evolved into a particularly intense sibling rivalry.
Sunny was the older, and Jeena felt that she had to do better than Sunny all the time. So if one would get an A, the other would want an A+. They would never help each other in school. They each had to do their own thing. Jeena wouldn't help Sunny with her homework. Sunny wouldn't help Jeena with hers.
The strong bond between twins can actually lead them to really compete with one another, and it can be a way for them to be attempting to find their own identity and separateness. In cases where twins are particularly close, like Sunny and Jeena, that competition can be especially fierce as they're really trying to prove to themselves that they're worthy individuals.
To their friends and family, the rivalry between the two appeared to pay off.
As they progressed through school, the Han sisters were top of their class. They excelled in everything they did, and they always got top marks.
They became co-valedictorians, and everybody was quite happy about it. Everybody actually expected it. They were the same. They were identical. Their minds, their ability to do things were identical. So yeah, they competed a little bit. If you looked at a lot of it, it was healthy competition.
By almost every measure, the Han sisters had everything going for them. And most importantly, they had each other.
Those two girls were very close to each other. Even though they had their little rivalries, you know, about the age and who got the better grades, they were still very, very close.
That period was the best time of their lives, but it didn't stay that way.
Beneath their seemingly perfect veneer, jealousy and envy slowly grew between the sisters. Socially, Sunny had the edge over her twin, Jeena.
In high school, Sunny was the gregarious twin who had a lot of friends, and she was the charismatic twin, whereas Jeena was much darker horse. She would shy away from people.
Sunny was the one to get the boyfriend first. Sunny was the one who got the job first. It was always Sonny first, who would step up to try something new. And then Jeena would kind of step back a little bit and watch. But then Jeena would want to do the same thing.
No matter how hard Jeena tried, she could never quite match her sister, Sonny.
There was several times when Jeena would come to me and say that, why does Sonny get better than her? Why does Sonny get this? Why is Sonny number one?
There would have to be some resentment on the part of Jeena. I think anytime a sibling is favored over the other, that can be really painful for the unfavored sibling, and it's even more tough for identical twins.
Korean-born identical twin sisters, Sonny and Jeena Han, graduated from high school as co-valedictorians.
I always thought the girls were top of the line in the way they acted, the way they dressed, the way they handled themselves.
The Han girls had grown from struggling immigrants raised by distant relatives to young women with the world at their fingertips. But it wouldn't last for long.
After high school ended, they both had plans. Jeena had decided to join the Air Force, and Sonny got a scholarship to the University of Laverne.
Sonny wanted to go to college more than Jeena did, but she didn't have an idea what she wanted to be. She just wanted to go get the college experience and maybe decide from them.
Having earned a college scholarship, Sonny was out to prove she could excel on her own.
Sonny initially started college and was doing pretty well. She was staying on that focused path.
But Jeena, who had started basic training with the Air Force, struggled with military life.
She talked to us a few times while she was in basic training, but for some reason, she didn't finish basic training, and I don't know why.
Jeena was actually keeping a secret from her relatives.
She was frantic to get out, and she was released.
Jeena returned to her Southern California home, feeling like a failure. Without her mother or her twin sister around to support her, Jeena fell apart.
I don't believe Jeena was ready for life after high school. It was too fast for her, especially now that she was not with her sister anymore.
Identical twins in particular were very close, like Sonny and Jeena, and haven't become individualized very well throughout development, will have difficulty when they try to separate, and it'll actually be traumatic for them.
With Sonny's success at college weighing heavily on her mind, Jeena decided she needed to stand on her own 2 feet and get a job.
Jeena followed in her mother's footsteps and got a job in a casino as a waitress.
Jeena wanted to become a blackjack dealer. I had asked her then, don't you want to go to college? And she says, for right now, this is what I want to do.
And that really was her downfall. She developed a gambling addiction.
Like her mother, Boo Kim, Jeena gambled away all her money, and debt took control of her life.
Jeena's gambling problem was pretty acute, and she would drop thousands of dollars.
As Jeena's debts and problems mounted, she started getting more and more desperate.
One night, a despondent Jeena took a handful of sleeping pills and washed them down with a bottle of liquor.
I got a call from the emergency room down at Grossmont Hospital in La Mesa that Jeena had tried to commit suicide. I think it was more of a cry out because she hadn't taken enough to kill herself. When I went down to the hospital to pick up Jeena, one of the first things I did was ask her why she had done this. And she told me that she just felt like everything was coming down on top of her. Nobody wanted to help her. She was on her own. She couldn't handle it anymore.
Despite family support, Jeena couldn't control her gambling habit and continued to slide deeper into debt. She took to petty crime to cover her losses.
Jeena started getting into real trouble to cover her gambling bets. She was stealing money from friends, forging checks.
And when that money ran out, Jeena stole from the very people who had taken her in as a child.
We discovered that she had broke into my safe, took my business checks, a bunch of credit cards, and personal checks, and started cashing them and using them. All total, Jeena took about $20,000 out of my business account and about $15,000 out of personal accounts of mine. I was very, very angry because this is a girl we had opened up to, had helped out, had raised.
As Jeena continued on her downward spiral, nearly 150 miles away, her twin Sunny appeared to be thriving at college.
While Sunny was in school, she was living incredibly well. She was driving an expensive car, she was dressing really, really well, and a lot of friends wondered where all this money came from.
Many thought Sunny's charmed life was too good to be true.
Jeena would come back from Los Angeles after seeing her sister. She would tell us about how Sunny had all these great things. I mean, nice apartment, a car, clothes, furniture. And Jeena would come back, and I think she would be a little bit jealous of the fact that Sunny now was doing good and having all this stuff, and she didn't have it.
But as it turned out, Sunny was hiding a dark secret. She was every bit as adept a thief as her twin sister, Jeena.
Sunny had developed this taste for finer things, and so she decided to use a friend's credit card to go on a shopping spree to buy all kinds of things.
Sunny stole $1,300, and when her best friend found out, she went to the police.
Sunny was arrested for petty theft, forced to pay a fine, and put on 3 years probation.
She explained to the police that, well, the friend was rich and she didn't think she'd mind.
But perhaps like Jeena, Sunny couldn't help it.
There was a family history of gambling and addiction, so those sisters inherited that genetic predisposition for addiction and gambling. The Han sisters did really have that double whammy of the genetic risk and the adverse environment.
Sunny's arrest for theft was a shock to the family. In addition to beauty and brains, the sisters now shared nearly identical criminal behavior. Jeena was also picked up by police and later arrested for theft.
Because she had to steal money from close friends, a significant amount of money, and she was caught. They turned her in, and so she had to spend some time behind bars.
Jeena Han was sentenced to 10 days in jail and 3 years probation. Not long afterwards, Sunny also fell on hard times.
Sunny started having some boyfriend troubles, and her grades started to slip. So within a year and a half, she had lost that scholarship and dropped out of school.
Living apart, the Han sisters seemed almost predestined to fail.
The Han sisters are concordant for property crime, for addictions, and for depression and suicide attempts. All of those things have been linked to genetics. They had these adverse environments while they were growing up with poor parenting combined with stressful young adult circumstances. I mean, they have everything going against them, really.
The two promising teens, who had once stood hand in hand at the top of their class, had now hit rock bottom.
I felt that after they left us and they tried to experience life, they tried to grab too much at one time.
These girls had no coping skills for real life. These girls are both haunted by their past, by the neglect of their mother, and really just were trying to find their way.
And just like they had as children, the twins knew they could only rely on each other. When Jeena skipped out on her probation in San Diego, Sunny offered her refuge in Orange County.
Sunny moved into a new apartment in Placentia, California. She invited her twin sister to come and live with her.
After 4 years apart, the Han sisters were finally reunited for the first time since high school. But living together as adults awoke demons from their past.
I think that one of Jeena's problems She was trying to compare her life to Sonny's life. You can see her sister doing so well that I think Jeena was hurt by it and was wondering, why couldn't it be me? Why does she get the good stuff and I don't?
Jeena decided to stake her claim to her twins' lush lifestyle, whether Sonny liked it or not.
By that time, Jeena had developed a pattern of stealing, and so that caused a real strain in the relationship because she started stealing things that belonged to Sonny.
Jeena helped herself to Sonny's clothes, money, and even her BMW without permission.
Jeena had this mindset that what was hers was hers. And I think that was because of having to share so much with her sister that anything that she could keep for her, that was hers.
The Han sisters, they almost had this love-hate relationship, but they just kept getting into trouble. Especially Jeena, she just couldn't seem to get on the right track and ended up abusing her sister along the way.
Furious at her sister's behavior, Sonny demanded that her identical twin respect her family position as the eldest, and she wasn't afraid to use force to assert her authority.
It was a very volatile relationship, and they would get into fights, and neighbors had to call the police to break them up.
Living together as adults had pushed the Han sisters to the boiling point, and it all came to a head one afternoon when they finally drew blood.
While Jeena was staying with Sonny, she had disappeared for a few days with Sonny's BMW. And by the time she got back, Sonny was fit to be tied, just in a rage. So they had a physical fight. They just started wailing on each other.
As she always had in the past, Sonny once again came out on top.
Sonny threw a phone in Jeena's face and actually broke her nose.
Bloodied and bruised, Jeena had been beaten and humiliated by her elder twin.
After Sonny broke Jeena's nose, it changed everything with the twins.
As she lay bleeding, Jeena vowed to stop at nothing to settle the score, for good.
When police arrived to find Jeena with a broken nose, they questioned her about Sonny.
Jeena seized the moment and turned the tables on her elder twin.
And she told them that Sonny was actually on probation for a credit card theft.
Police took Sonny into custody and gave her 3 days jail time.
Jeena telling the police that her sister was out on probation and getting her subsequently arrested was really revenge for all those years of having to defer to her. This was payback time.
As she sat in jail for the next 72 hours, Sonny boiled with anger. Her younger twin had finally gotten the better of her. But Jeena was just getting started.
While Sonny's in jail, Jeena has access to her car, her credit cards, her ID, and she just has at it. She goes on a shopping spree, and she disappears with the car and just has carte blanche with everything.
For Jeena, it was a delightful 3 days of total freedom at her twins' expense. But there would be hell to pay when Sonny returned.
Sonny came home and found out that her sister had been using her credit card and driving her car. She was furious and threw her out of the apartment.
Sonny wasted no time settling the score with Jeena.
She contacts police, she presses charges, and this ends up being the worst trouble that Jeena had been in to date.
Jeena was arrested for theft and skipping out on her probation. She was sentenced to 6 months behind bars.
The Han twins, their behavior was bizarre, but it was also very, very symmetrical. One twin goes out stealing, and then the other twin does the same thing. Another twin goes to the police to rat on one, and the other one does that too.
The back and forth between the twins was growing, with no end in sight.
The Han twins strike me very much like a Tom and Jerry cartoon, one trying to outdo the other and with deeper intensity.
Incarcerated for the second time in her young life, Jeena was furious with her twin sister for turning her in to the police.
Gina's rage just begins to really build against her sister. She's blaming her for everything, the fact that she's in jail, the fact that she has all these problems, and that Sunny seems to have this charmed life.
As she sat alone in jail, Jeena decided she had to end this sibling competition once and for all.
She realizes that Sunny is the thing stopping her being successful and standing in the way of her life, and she decides to do something about it. She hatched a plan to kill her sister and assume her identity.
But such a cold-blooded plot would require willing accomplices. After escaping on a prison work furlough, Jeena made her way to San Diego to put out feelers for potential hitmen.
She starts to talk to other people about killing her sister. She was not very savvy about it. She just would say it to people she didn't even know. Do you know someone who can kill my sister?
Jeena was ultimately able to find two young teenagers to help her.
Jeena recruited the teenage cousin of a friend, 16-year-old Archie Bryant. Archie then convinced his 15-year-old friend, John Sayarath, to help him carry out Jeena's sinister plot. Their payment for the job, $100 each.
I think that she probably made them feel good about what they were doing. I mean, I'm sure she probably knew how to manipulate them. If Archie sat down right now and you were to ask him, well, how did she get you to do this? He probably wouldn't be able to tell you.
Jeena told the teenagers she would drive them from San Diego to Sunny's apartment complex in Irvine. When they arrived, they were to follow her strict instructions.
Jeena had this mastermind of this plot where she was going to send the two teenage boys into Sunny's apartment and have her tied up.
But they were under specific orders not to kill Sunny. That gruesome task would fall to someone else.
She wanted them to go in and to tie up Sunny and gag her and have her in the bathroom waiting. And then Jeena wanted to come in and, in her quote, I want to kill the
To Jeena, it was a diabolically perfect plan. She would kill her twin sister, assume her identity, and no one would ever know it happened. Twin Jeena could finally step out of Sunny's shadow and literally into Sunny's shoes.
Cross-culturally, murder is probably one of the more consistent taboos. It is extreme. There are very few things you can do that are as severe and extreme as participating in the murder of a relative. This is as bad as it gets.
Jeena has her teenage co-conspirators. Now she is ready to carry out her twins' murder.
Jeena had obtained a gun, and she took off to Orange County from San Diego with Archie and Jonathan in the car. Once they got to Orange County, they stopped at a supermarket and bought some rope, some garbage bags, and some cleaning fluids. The gun would be used to kill Sunny after she was tied up and bound and gagged, and the cleaning fluid and garbage bags would be used to clean up the mess.
Shortly after 3 p.m., Jeena pulls into Sunny's apartment complex and directs her two young accomplices to Sunny's door.
The boys got to the front door. It was answered by one of Sunny's roommates, Helen. They forced their way in, Helen was screaming. Sonny was in her bedroom, could hear the screaming behind a closed door. She assumed that the roommate was being raped, and so she grabbed a cell phone and called 911.
How many people totally in the house? I do not know. So you have one roommate in the house, and you think she's being raped? Hurry.
It's a desperate situation that takes a terrible turn for the worse.
You were in the room and you heard what?
Sonny's phone line goes dead.
I just lost the cell phone.
Jeena Han spent years living in the shadow of her more successful twin sister, Sunny, while her own life fell apart.
Her rage was focused at Sonny. Sonny was to blame for everything.
And now, with 2 hired hitmen at her side, Jeena has decided to settle the score for good. Hired teens Archie Bryant and John Sayarath burst into Sonny's apartment while Jeena waits outside in the getaway car. They jump the first person they see, Sonny's roommate, Helen.
Helen was screaming. Sonny was in her bedroom, could hear the screaming behind a closed door. She assumed that the roommate was being raped, and so she grabbed a cell phone and called 911.
So you have one roommate in the house, and you think she's being raped? Hurry.
Sonny isn't on the line more than 2 minutes when suddenly the call drops.
I just lost the cell phone.
Archie Bryant burst in and grabbed Sunny. He put a gun to her head and asked her what she was doing with the phone, and Sunny thought fast and said she was just calling some friends of hers.
Archie made Sonny hang up, and she was tied up with duct tape and rope.
The 2 hitmen took them into the bathroom and sat them in the bath facing each other. One of the hitmen said, "Go tell Jeena we're ready to polish her off."
As Archie Bryant guards the bound roommates at gunpoint, John Sayarath leaves the apartment to get Jeena.
It was the first time Sunny had an idea that somehow her sister was involved.
Sonny is stunned to hear Jeena's name, and she and Helen can only fear the worst.
They really thought they were going to keep killed and they weren't going to get out alive.
I mean, you get told at gunpoint to kneel in a bathtub, you pretty much think it's probably it.
What the 3 conspirators don't know is the Irvine Police Department is only 3 short blocks away.
It starts to be a scene where the cops have surrounded the place.
Officers arrive to find Jeena and John in the parking lot.
Jeena starts to ask a policeman what's going on. He has no idea that she set the whole thing in motion and just tells her to stand back.
As officers move towards the apartment, Jeena plays it cool and innocent.
A lot of times when you arrive at the scene of a problem, the person who looks like the victim is really the suspect. And the person who looks like they were defending themselves is really the aggressor.
But inside the apartment, Archie Bryant panics when he hears the police.
He tried to leave. He opened the door, but the police were there. And he saw them, and he closed the door and went back inside.
He's armed, alone, and about to be blamed for everything.
Archie is still in the apartment with Sonny and her roommate, and he's tearing off the tape frantically, trying to undo what he's done.
That's when he tried to hide the gun, and he hid it. And then he eventually figured he had to give himself up.
Archie frees Sonny and Helen, and then quickly cooks up a cover story.
We're gonna tell the cops it was just a joke, all right? Come on.
Archie starts begging the girls, tell them it's a joke. Tell them it's a joke, we were just kidding. But it was a little too late to undo what had been done.
He ushers the shaken women out of the apartment.
The girls came out with their hands up, and they had duct tape in their hair, and they were very disoriented.
Officers immediately take Archie Bryant into custody. As she watches from the other side of the parking lot, Jeena decides she's not going back to jail for a 3rd time.
Jeena and John take off, and they leave Archie with the whole thing to deal with himself. So they're basically now on the run. They're heading towards San Diego.
Jeena Han and accomplice John Sayarath speed down the California coast. They make one stop at a Laguna Beach bank where Jeena uses Sonny's credit cards to withdraw $5,000 in cash. Now, all she needs to do is ditch the getaway car.
Jeena went to a car dealership and was trying to buy a car using Sonny's identification.
But the plan stalls when the dealer demands 24 hours to run a credit check. Time is short, and police are closing in.
You can run, but you can't hide. John and Jeena have very few places they can actually flee. There's police involvement now.
Jeena and John get back in their car and gun it toward the Mexican border, now just 80 miles away.
Mexico is a good choice if you're fleeing, because if you can get across the border, the enforcement by the police is not as consistent, and you might not be noticed. You can get to Old Mexico and everything will be fine.
If she can make it across the border, Jeena Han might beat the rap for trying to kill her identical twin, Sonny. But time is running out. Jeena Han and her accomplice John Sayarath are on the run after botching a plan to murder her identical twin sister, Sonny.
John and Jeena hightail it out of there, realizing things have really gone awry. And they know they're in trouble.
For over 6 hours, California police have been tracking the two fugitives as they flee south towards the Mexican border, and they're closing in. Jeena and John pull into the San Diego airport. Their plan is to swap rental cars. But what the fugitives don't know is the San Diego police are ready to pounce.
It was at the rental car agency where the police caught up with them.
Police draw their weapons on Jeena and John inside the office. They surrender. The police search Jeena's getaway car and find Sonny's driver's license, passport, credit cards, and $4,000 cash.
Jeena obviously had a very, very, very active imagination. Well, she could have been planning anything. I mean, she could have very well planned on going to Mexico, but you know, if that had been her plan, obviously it wasn't a very well-conceived plan because the money would eventually run out.
In the trunk of the getaway car, officers find cleaning supplies, rope, and trash bags.
They had a store receipt of plastic bags and rope and cleaning fluid as well.
Police believe all the physical evidence points to only one conclusion.
They called it a recipe for murder, where Jeena would come in and shoot Sonny and then clean up the mess and then assume her identity and move on with her life.
Jeena and her two teenage accomplices are arrested, and the Han case explodes in the press.
The thing that made this a sexy case would be the fact that it was twins. The fact that it was one sister plotting or planning or conspiring to kill her sister for purposes of taking over an identity.
One twin conspiring to murder another twin is exceedingly rare. For the most part, twins are loving and supportive and positive, but we see the Han sisters' concordance for addictions and irresponsible behavior in the sisters. We see the adverse environments both in growing up as well as in their young adult lives and producing these really negative outcomes in a very sad way for these sisters.
As the magnitude of the alleged murder plot is revealed, Sunny Han is devastated, but she feels she must confront her twin sister.
After Jeena was arrested and Sunny went to jail and she met with Jeena behind bars, and Jeena said that she hadn't in fact been trying to kill her, that it was just the police and they'd been lying.
After their tearful reunion, Sunny has a change of heart.
So now you believe your twin sister is innocent, correct?
She did not want to cooperate with the DA. She did not want to do something to put Jeena at risk. Unfortunately, those are not her calls. She can't make that decision.
Sunny knows she must ultimately take the stand against her twin, Jeena. And no one can predict what she plans to say.
Sunny was the star witness for the prosecution. And the first day she talked about growing up and their life in Korea and coming to America and all the trials and tribulations they'd had as children growing up. She told her sister that she loved her and she'd always be her sister.
Much to the surprise of the court members, Sunny stands by her twin.
It really seemed like Sunny didn't believe that her sister ever intended to kill her. She really seemed to be in some sort of denial as to some of the facts.
She didn't want to do this to her sister, despite the fact that she had been told that her sister had been plotting to kill her. I don't think she ever believed that her sister really would have done that. She maintained that her sister would not have killed her.
As the first day of trial comes to a close, it's clear that Jeena Han has delivered a compelling defense of her sister, Jeena.
Her demeanor during the time of her testimony, she was classy, well-dressed, well-maintained, composed.
But on her second day of testimony, a very different Sunny arrives at the courthouse.
She looked very strange. She had no makeup on, her hair was askew, she had an unusual outfit on, and she seemed to be having trouble walking.
When Sunny takes the witness stand, she makes a shocking confession.
What I did was I went to the drugstore and bought 3 boxes of sleeping pills.
Sunny explained in a very shaky voice that she had taken this overdose of sleeping pills.
She had basically collapsed. She slumped in the witness box. That, of course, resulted in a stop to the proceedings.
At this point, the judge realized this was serious and called an ambulance. And Sunny was taken off in a stretcher.
It's been necessary to call the paramedics for Ms. Han, and the deputies are needed to take care of that situation.
Paramedics race Sunny to the ICU, where doctors revive her.
It was very dramatic. It was the most dramatic day of the trial. Sunny really was feeling a lot of pressure over the situation, so she took an overdose of sleeping pills.
Jeena Han recovers from her overdose and returns to testify a week later. It appears to many that Jeena's defense team has benefited from Sunny's testimony. Friends and family are now convinced Jeena would be found innocent.
It was a victimless crime. Nobody got hurt. Nothing happened. Jeena would never, ever try to kill her sister. Ever. And I'll swear to it to this day, that girl would have never pulled that trigger.
But no one has any idea how the jury might rule. After 10 hours of deliberation over 3 days, the trial jury finally reaches a verdict.
Sunny had told me that her sister seemed very confident that she wouldn't be convicted or she wouldn't have to serve a really long sentence.
But Jeena is sorely mistaken.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Jeena Han, guilty.
She and her 2 teenage hitmen are found guilty of all charges. Sunny begs the court for leniency.
I think if Sunny had had her way, the sister would have been let go. She seemed to be much more concerned about the well-being of her sister than concerned about seeing to it that the sister was punished.
Unimpressed by Sonny's pleas, Judge Eileen Moore sentences Jeena Han to the maximum, 26 years to life.
The judge felt that she was a menace to her family and to society.
Jeena never admitted, I was going to kill my sister. But if anybody in the whole deal deserved a big chunk of time, it was the person who put it all into motion. And it worked out that way.
As Jeena languishes in jail, Sonny Han rises to stardom on the back of her infamous evil twin.
Sonny became a celebrity following the trial. She did a lot of TV appearances, she hired a manager, and there was even talk of her signing a $2 million deal for a film, which never came to anything.
Not long afterwards, Sonny drops out of the limelight and out of sight.
As of today, nobody seems to be able to know where she is.
It seems to be really an exception that a twin would turn on the other twin. That's why this case was so fascinating to everybody. Usually twins are very much in each other's corner and have this unusual loyalty and just an exceptional kind of bond. Something broke between these girls.
People initially try to portray it as a good twin, evil twin situation, but really, I think it's like evil twin and less evil twin. But they both had their share of problems.
The tragedy of this whole thing is you've got two girls, very beautiful, very bright young ladies, who care and love each other a lot, that'll probably never be with each other again. And that's a big tragedy.